I think for me, I've really enjoyed all the video chats and just connecting more students one-on-one and doing, I know that gotten feedback from parents and students that they really like all the check-ins that are happening. And so I think that was something I wasn't really sure about at first, but I'm really enjoying that. Um, and then I think that something else that I was also worried about is I think a lot of the students are taking it seriously, or they're making sure to check in and do their assignments for the most part. And so I think that's something that has gone well and that I'm happy about.
Awesome. Thank you, Kayla.
I agree with Kayla. I was going to say something along the same lines of just having those one-on-one check-ins with the kids, and then even conversations with the parents. And I've been really happy that it's been like a cohesive group of working with the parents, that they're able to provide feedback in a positive way, and then we're able to kind of adjust it, and it's been good. It doesn't feel like it's two different sides trying to find a solution, but it feels like we're actually all working together to best support their kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, going off of Deanna, it's very similar, just like it's been really fun to see how seriously the kids are taking it. For the most part, I would say like 80% of my students are taking it very seriously. And also just hearing from parents, like the feedback has been really great of how well they think it's going from their end. And then I just felt like I had such a win yesterday. Usually like my team's general feed is just filled with like student conversations, questions, and there were like, it was just the meetings that were listed because they didn't have as many questions. And so I felt like that just showed they're like getting into the rhythm of like understanding protocols, and of course it's good if they answer questions and if they're responding to one another. But I was like just thinking about how great that was to see that they are feeling more independent in it. And I am really impressed with some of the work that I'm seeing come back. Not all of it, but there is a good amount of it that they, again, like even the complete the line videos, I've been really impressed with. So, yeah.
And I want to take a moment just to kind of like jump off of that. I think that, it's great that we're seeing all of this work from the kids, but a big part of that is like, and that they're taking it seriously. I think a lot of that also comes back to kind of being consistent in the messaging and the ways that we're communicating with them. And that's something that I want to make sure that, all of us here, that what it comes down to is that in being consistent and in showing them that we are here and we're not, changing what we're doing, like they're able to kind of continue to get to the point where we're able to have this situation for them. So I want to say thank you to everybody in their, ability to kind of maintain that we're still doing school, we're still doing that, even though there's challenges, we're able to overcome and kind of move past that.
Going off of Emily. Okay, I'm going off of Emily. I also think that I think my students are finally in the groove of things and figuring things out and realizing like they're not asking me as many straightforward questions, and they're like, oh, I'm able to find this myself, which is really good for them. So I'm happy to see that. And I also, along with what's going well for me, my discussions have been like better than they are in class, which has been great. I think it's because they're not like next to each other and they're not having like side conversations and they're not shouting across the room. They're politely waiting for the person to finish and they're actually listening to each other. And I've really enjoyed our discussions as a class lately. Yeah.
That's great.
I was going to say, I feel like overall they're understanding the content that they're learning, and I've noticed that they're still, for the most part, probably like 80% of them, kind of like what you're saying, Emily, are still showing a lot of creativity. So And I've also really enjoyed talking one-on-one with the students, meeting with them, and then even in our group meetings, just continuing to build our community. And same thing, like a lot of positive parent feedback. Whenever I talk to a parent, I always make sure keeping those lines of communication open. Just if anything isn't working, please let me know. And they're very responsive, saying and appreciative of staying open and just maintaining that line of communication.
Yeah, echoing all of that for me too. And one thing I've really appreciated the last couple of weeks with the parents is kind of, I know my parents have been really good at giving me the point of view from their side and the student side, because I can't see that side, like what it looks like on their computer or what it looks like for them. So I've really appreciated that, so that if there's any concerns or issues or anything, we can work on it together. Because of course, learning looks different for each child when they're at home, and also all these different things that we're using, you don't know what it looks like with the student perspective. So parents just being in communication with that. And again, the parent feedback has been really positive, so I've appreciated that. And the independence I've seen from the students has really increased over the last couple of weeks. So that's really neat to see.
Yeah.
I think for me, the positives have been similar to what everyone's been saying, that students are becoming a lot more independent with doing stuff rather than constantly contacting me to ask for questions on every single thing that I post in OneNote. I do have a divide with students who want actual schedules in terms of what time, like an expectation of time that each subject should be done. And then I have the other side that wants it to be a flexible schedule, which is what we discussed in class, where most wanted that. But I think now there was like, if it's so flexible, we do not know what to do when in the OneNote page. So I'm trying to kind of balance it out with students and have conversations when we do our morning check-ins and end of day check-ins to see what went well, with specific times that I said get things completed, or what did not go well. But for the most part, I think finally this week, and I would say yesterday, things seem to have settled down. I still have the ones who constantly complain, like nothing is good enough. So those are the ones I'm still tackling, about too much work or no time. I don't know why there's no time to do work when it's a school day. So those are discussions I'm still having, and I still have the ones who just don't submit stuff. So those are a few things that I think are still challenging, that I do not know how to deal with, because there have been communications with families, communications with the students, and I'm still not seeing results. And for me, I feel frustrated only because we want them all to be successful in remote learning, and it doesn't seem to be happening for some of them. So, but other than that, I'm enjoying it. I love the one-on-ones that we have, and show and tell has been fun with the students at the end of the day. And when we do Bible study or even live lessons, and they're actually telling me what to click sometimes because I forget to unmute and I've had a conversation, or I'm on mute and I've had conversation. So it's been good. I mean, I'm having a good time with all the students. So
That's great. I think, like I said, it's very easy because like we spend a lot of our time looking at the students and wanting them to be successful and seeing like, oh my goodness, like they're growing, right? They're coming from the situation where they were at before, where they were, not excited about this at all. They were struggling with, making sure everything was working. And that over the past couple of weeks, like for instance, in our one-on-ones, I saw, I started asking them, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, how are you feeling like right now about just in general? And last week, it was not very high at all. We're talking like 3s. And this week is like all 8s, right? Like everybody feels like they've gotten into their routine, and they've more or less kind of started to develop. And it's very easy to look at them and be like, yes, they were able to take initiative, they're able to do all those things. And it does take some level of work on their end, of course. But also at the same time, I do want to be consistent with saying that a lot of that also comes from us, from being consistent with what we're expecting, from setting what our guidelines are, and consistently showing them, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is how we're going to support you. And while we need your assistance in getting there, we're not going to change. We're still going to love you. We're still going to work on, making sure that you guys get the things that you need.
Yeah.
But so the last thing that I guess I want to ask is, what do you feel like you're most proud of for yourself? What do you feel like is the thing that you've contributed, or the piece that you've overcome that you weren't expecting to be able to overcome, or, just for your own individual contribution to this experience that we've had so far?
I wasn't sure how the live lesson was gonna look, just with having first graders and having them not be in front of you, because a lot of times, like in younger grades, you're working on teaching them how to be in school. So having them out of that, I wasn't sure what that would look like, but I've seen it work, and I've seen them grow in following the slant, even though we're not together. So
Absolutely. Thank you, Abby.
Yeah.
I kind of think the same thing along Abby. I was a little nervous about how the live lessons and things would go, but it seems to be going really well. And just even the recording the directions or doing live lessons that then they can watch later, it just seems to be working much better than I originally pictured. So I'm glad that it's actually working out and going well.
You guys are doing, you're producing content and being able to communicate effectively with the students, even through this, physical separation. That's amazing.
I think for me, it's how quickly I had to learn some of the technology in Teams.
Yeah.
It was I would be like, oh, I'll get there. But then when this happened, it was like, oh, I got to be here already. So just having to get my kids at home, go, how do I do this? What do I do with this? Just running through it and then working through it when I'm doing a lesson with students, or having those conversations, scheduling meetings, and just learning all those little bits and actually seeing them through and being able to do them now. I was very excited when I could. So even my first lesson, just being able to screen share was like a aha moment for me. I was excited that I could do that. So for me, that was definitely a success through this.
And that's great. I
Yeah.
think we're all have technology things that we're trying to figure out and how to work through. And so being able to be like, yeah, I didn't know if I was going to be able to do it, but we're there. We're screen sharing, we're making calls, we're doing all the rest of it. It's great.
I've been getting calls and messages from schools all over the place who've been watching our school, and people saying things like, oh, you've just all got this figured out, so this is all easy for you. And I'm like, no. And I said the whole concept of trying to have a balance between technology and humanity and then make it all be behind technology is a huge challenge in itself. It's not like we're saying our school was intended to have all kids sit behind computers, and so we have that method figured out. It was, we're intended to use technology to support the human interaction that they're seeing face to face. And that flips everything around when you try and do something where they're now behind computer screens. And so a couple of the questions that were technical questions that people asked, like one person said, well, where were you at 4 a.m. when I needed your help? And I said, trying to figure out our own stuff, that it's not like all these pieces, just because we've been using it doesn't mean that we know the applications in a way that's going to be really smooth, or for all of us to be on the same page. So I think one of the things I'm really proud of that I'm seeing right now is that the initial unrest that was there of like, how do we all row in the same direction? I can see there's more of a smoothness and ease there. And even though some of the initial requests were like, no, really, we need to have something smoother for the families, even if it means us changing, that I'm seeing a lot of that in the responses that you're saying you're seeing from families. So it's meeting that goal of that smoothness from overall in general from the families experiencing that, especially compared to what I'm reading in articles or families in other situations who are really frustrated because they're not understanding how to make the pieces work, or they don't know what's coming, or there's inconsistency because the faculty or the teachers are getting inconsistent messages from districts of yes, teach, no, don't teach, yes, you can do this, don't do online. And so that's constantly changing for them. Whereas, as Chris just mentioned, our messaging has been consistent from the beginning. And yes, we will keep communicating with you. Yes, you will keep getting this information from us. And if you don't know, we want to hear from you and we want to make adjustments so it works. So thank you all for doing that, because the type of feedback you're getting from families seems like it's indicating that that goal is obviously not perfect by any means yet, but that it's moving in that direction in a way that could have been very different if people chose to go in a different direction.
Yeah, I think maintaining the strong communication with the families, like you're saying, and just, being consistent. It's hard work to be consistent. And so the fact that we've been able to do so even for 2 weeks is just really amazing.
To say a positive on the kid side, just seeing some of the mentoring things, because that was one of my concerns also, since that's such a huge core of our school, that we want the older kids to support the younger kids and see that relational connection. Going from 2 buildings to 1, it was an excitement that they'll be able to have that interaction, and now no building together. That was a concern because I thought we just established these and then it's going to feel like upheaval for the younger kids and older kids. But a couple of the older kids who were maybe not as engaged with their peers online, when I watched some of the video recordings of them interacting with their younger buddies, knowing that they had someone younger looking up to them and depending on them or having a positive memory, I could see a different expression on their faces for the older kids. And so I think that was just as, I almost want to say, therapeutic for the older ones in some of those cases as it could have been for the younger ones to feel that there was still a connection even though there's a separation. Especially because some of the younger ones will get this feeling of, I don't see this person anymore. Did they just leave me? Or even some of the ones in 4 or 5s, did they die if they don't see them again? So being able to see that kind of connection and the conversation that carried on with some of those memories, like that part really meant a lot to me to be able to see that, because it showed some level of humanity even behind screens like this.
I also think it's just been great to see how our team has come together and communicated more so even than when we've been in the building. And so I think that's been cool. And just like I think it's been a good challenge for our team in order to increase our communication. And I also think it's been really fun to collaborate so heavily with Kayla. And I mean, we collaborate a lot on campus, but I feel like we're doing even more so now. And so to lean on each other, even though we're not in the same physical space, has been really great.
Yeah, that's great. I think it's very important to kind of, we've reached a point where it's like, you have to communicate because there's no way that you can't, right? Like, you ain't disappearing. We're not going to let that happen. So.
Oh, one more positive one, a follow-up from the question about what happens if the kids keep conversations going. Did anyone happen to try that and give them an idea of, you can keep carrying on conversation, but here are ways that you can talk to each other? Did anyone happen to try that yet? We tried it with Mrs. Zimmerman's reading group, and we said we noticed that they were talking to each other afterwards. And we said, even if the call ends, you can still keep talking to each other, but instead of just saying hi, 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 or stop, stop, why are you doing this? Think about a way to encourage someone else, say something positive, say something about the book, or you can ask each other things that you like what color do you like, or what's your favorite animal? And they started a discussion like that at a very, I would say, conversational level as opposed to just throwing out words. And there was this whole flood of, that was so fun. I love reading. This is the best reading group. This is so much fun. And it was really nice to see that. And then also we tried something different with her reading group. Instead of going in through chat and starting the call that way, we just set up a meeting. So it allowed for that setup where it can be the presenter and then no one can kick anyone out by accident or on purpose. And then for the kids who forgot to get on the call, being able to have that invite button that's right next to the names who were invited but not in the call yet. So then there was 100% attendance with that, and that worked really well.
I was gonna say with my end of day check-ins where it's just like, how'd things go today? Do you have any questions? Like before I like log out for the day, but not really. And just to like have a chat with them. Sometimes they just want to like catch up, which is totally fine. But like then the conversation, I'll be like, okay guys, I'm gonna leave, but you guys can keep chatting. Like I'm happy you guys want to catch up. But like if you don't have any more questions, then like I'm gonna go. And I've noticed that like those conversations will go like 20-30 minutes longer because like you can see the little join now and I'll be like, oh, they're still chatting, and I can see who's in there. And like they just want to socialize and catch up. But I feel like they for my kids anyway, unless they're like close with that person, then they don't really contact them first. Yeah. But those check-ins like are a time where it's like, oh, well, like you're talking about something that I'm doing too. Let's talk about it. And so I've just kind of like seeing those connections. Like Isaiah and Sasha stayed on a whole chat the other day and just talked about their backyards and like showed each other on things. And like they're just such a pair that I didn't expect. And yeah, it's just like they're just like, oh, people from my class, hello. I just like seeing that. Yeah.
That's awesome too. I'm going to reword what you said just a little bit. What you're proud of is that you've been able to provide opportunities to the children to connect with each other and to socialize.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anyone else have something they wanted to share? All right then. Lori, Brian, Michelle, anything else that you want to say about the past 2 weeks, how things are going, things like that?
You know, I was just catching a little news this morning, and it kind of echoes something Michelle said. Man, so many other places are just still 2 weeks into this, still scrambling, and it looks like you guys are just nailing this. So nice job, good job for figuring out and all the hard work.
Perfect. Cool. With that, I don't think I have anything else. Just take a look at our things from today. Cool. All right. Well, with that, I think we should be good to go.
Thank you. Have
Absolutely.
a good day, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Yeah. Bye.
Good day.
Bye.
Bye.